Welcome to the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception for the annual Lenten Reflection Series presented by the priests of the National Shrine. When I was a young parish priest 100 years ago, one of my responsibilities was to work with the parish religious education program for persons with disabilities. The disabilities range from physical to mental and from slight to severe. In our weekly class, we had two blind children, a boy and a girl, whom I always think of whenever I hear the gospel about the man born blind. From my experience with these two young people, I learned to appreciate in a greater way the gift of sight that I have, and I also received a small insight into what it must be like to not be able to see. What I found most interesting with my young friends was that because they were born blind, they never thought that anything was wrong. They never complained about not being able to see, and they never expressed a desire to see. And their parents and teachers never allowed their blindness to hold them back, to restrict their activity, or to become a hindrance in their life. Because they could not see, these two young children had to do things differently. Basically, they had to see in different ways. It is also commonly accepted that when one sense is lost, the other senses are heightened. I see this on a regular basis at a home run in Northwest Washington by the Missionaries of Charity, where we have a man born blind. Without my saying a word, as I walk into the room, from the sound of my footsteps, he immediately says, "Father, is that you?" If we think about it, we are all a little blind. We have blind spots in our lives. There are parts of our lives that we do not see or do not want to see. And then there are parts of our lives that we basically refuse to see. Most of us do not like to admit that we are less than perfect. We do not like to admit to our faults or to our weaknesses. And we would basically prefer that other people not point out our faults as well. Quite often, we are simply content to remain blind. Sometimes we see this with couples who are dating. Everyone is able to see that for whatever reason, a certain situation is not right, it's not good, or the relationship itself is not good. And when confronted, one or both parties involved are blind to the fact that anything could be wrong and refuse to entertain the possibility of anything being wrong. And we are politely told to mind our own business. These days of Lent are a journey for us. A journey similar to that of the man born blind in the gospel. As you read this gospel, as you listen to this gospel, you'll see there is a whole transition taking place. After the blind man receives his sight and is questioned by the Pharisees about this healing, the blind man develops in his understanding of who Jesus is. He begins by calling Jesus a prophet. Then he says that Jesus is from God. The man born blind progresses so much in his faith that he reaches the point where he is defending Jesus to the Pharisees, and they in turn become fed up with his rhetoric and throw him out. When Jesus finds out about this, he looks for the man and gives him the reward of his faith, confirming for him that he is in fact the Son of Man, which elicits from the man born blind yet another act of faith as he calls Jesus Lord. Lent is our opportunity for Jesus to bring us to deeper faith and to confirm our faith. But like the man born blind, this is a process which begins by removing those things that blind us from seeing God more clearly and from seeing ourselves more honestly. As St. Paul urges in the letter to the Ephesians, we are called during Lent to live as children of light, producing every kind of goodness, righteousness, and truth, and learn and do what is pleasing to the Lord. Traditionally, this fourth Sunday of Lent is known as Laetare Sunday. This Sunday gets its name from the first words of the entrance antiphon for today's Mass, which says and calls us to rejoice. Rejoice at Jerusalem, and all you who love her. Be joyful, all you who were in mourning. The entrance antiphon, as well as the presidential prayers. These are the prayers that the priest prays for the fourth Sunday of Lent, speak of joy in anticipation of the celebration of Easter. Grant, we pray, the opening prayer implores, the Christian people may hasten toward the solemn celebrations to come. And the prayer over the gifts proclaims that the offerings we place before the Lord on the altar, we do so with joy, anticipating the final request we make of God in the prayer after communion, that God, who enlightens everyone who comes into the world, will illuminate our hearts with the splendor of his grace. This fourth Sunday of Lent is also the midpoint of Lent, and is a good day for us to examine how well we have observed the Lenten discipline we undertook on Ash Wednesday. Are we, as St. Paul advises in the letter to the Ephesians, producing every kind of goodness and righteousness and truth, doing what is pleasing to the Lord? Lent, Pope Francis has expressed, is the opportune time to look inside ourselves, to allow our most genuine spiritual needs to emerge, and to ask the Lord's help in prayer. If you have not been very good at looking inside yourself and living Lent for these past few weeks, or if you have fallen short of practicing the traditional works of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, if your own self-imposed Lenten observance, whatever you gave up for Lent, went by the wayside a few days after Ash Wednesday, then this Laetare Sunday, in which the Church summons us to rejoice, is a good day to recommit yourself to your Lenten observances for the remaining days of Lent, so that your most genuine spiritual needs will emerge, and God, who enlightens everyone, will illuminate your heart with the splendor of his grace, remove whatever blinds you from seeing God more clearly, and walk more firmly in his ways, and lead us all to rejoice in being children of the light who do what is pleasing to the Lord.